have everyone's attention? Could I have your attention, please? Thank you. Jeff Madlam, Delaware County Supervisor. I want to invite everyone to be here today. We appreciate you coming. It's going to be a great question and answer session. Senator Grassley has been gracious to come here today. I have a couple things I'd like to announce. One of them is, and we announce this at a lot of our meetings, that we want everybody to enjoy and ask questions, but be respectful. We do not want anybody to get out of hand and loud. I would appreciate it if you have any signs that they not be held up and blocking someone else's view, because we want to be respectful of the people behind you. And so with that, I will turn it over to Senator Grassley.
You folks know that these are, well, I've never really had this large of a crowd in any courtroom. So I usually start out by saying probably half of you have been to my town meetings before, but I don't think I can conclude that with such a big turnout we have. But so those of you that haven't, let me say 3 or 4 things, and then you're going to ask me questions or make statements, or maybe you're going to tell me you disagree with me on something, or you're going to ask me a personal question. All those things are okay. That's what I want you to feel comfortable about. So I start out by saying on the last county meeting of this week, this is 14 that I've had this week, and that makes 27 so far this year. I usually get through all the counties by Labor Day, usually. Last year it was October or November. The second thing I want to say to you is this is Friday, so it's a weekday, so you know I'm not in Washington where you would expect me to be. So the reason for that is this week we're not in session because of the holiday that we had Monday. And the third thing for me to say is that this is the best way for me to know what's on people's minds, because you can look at me and I can look at you. But even though this is a very big crowd, if I just kept in touch with people by what I see face to face, it wouldn't do much good. So I always encourage every one of you and people that aren't here to make sure that you email me when you can't see me. And since I promised to answer all those and you don't get an answer, write me a nasty letter and ask me why I didn't answer. People call in, and if you leave your name and address, or you leave your email, we answer on paper that way. So you'll get an answer if you call something in. Then the fourth thing to say is that I've told you about our two-way communication. So one-way communication from me to you. So if you want to get in deep on things and know what I'm involved in, other than what you read in the paper, grassley.senate.gov is where I have my speeches and where I have my press releases. And then also Facebook, and then Twitter at Chuck Grassley, and Instagram at Senator Chuck Grassley. And by the way, I see a camera over here, which is okay, but I should have announced right away that we're going to go through this door next door so we can have some quiet when you want to question me, because we always leave 15 minutes for the press after the 1-hour meeting I have with my constituents. So I think that's, oh, maybe one other thing, because sometimes I don't understand your question. Like in Pocahontas, a lady asked me about Medicare, but I thought it said Medicaid, so I spent 5 minutes answering a question about Medicaid. And she said, no, I'm talking about Medicare, so don't let me go 5 minutes down the road if I'm not talking about what you're interested in. So who's first? Why don't I start with you? But hey, I won't remember who put their hands up, so you're just going to have to keep putting your hands up.
I'm Linda. I'm a proud Iowan. I grew up in Iowa. I went to a one-room country school. I didn't grow up in Manchester. I've been here before. But I grew up in a neighborhood where I didn't know it when I was growing up, but the basic background of that was the people came to Iowa because they did not agree with the administration and with slavery. And so they were abolitionists, and my little neighborhood is now on the national pathway to freedom for the Underground Railroad. So I'm saying that I think there's a time and a place. And I understand where the DACA and the Dreamers are coming from. My daughter-in-law is a Dreamer, and this is February 23rd. March 5th is when the president said he would have an answer, and that should be all taken care of by March 5th, and it's not happening. And we have 800,000 people, plus some that have been chastised by the staff of the president because they were lazy. No, they're afraid to apply for DACA. They're literally afraid. And I know my daughter-in-law is still afraid for her family. But I worked in a DACA recipient renewal one night, and I saw people from Tama County, Jefferson County, Wapello County, Story County, Buena Vista County, and Hamilton County. And so we have immigrants of one form or another from when our families first came. And we don't want to be in the position that these people were in when they made a choice to come across the border. We've got to be empathetic and Christian in our approach to refugees. And so I'm wondering if you can promise us a Clean Dream Act by March 5th.
Good question.
Taxpayers too.
I can promise you we're going to get a bill through, whatever gets 60 votes in the United States Senate. That could be a clean bill, but probably won't be. It'll have to have some other things added to it. So I want to tell you what I stand for, and this is what we tried in the United States Senate last week, and on 2 different approaches, we didn't get 60 votes. So then, will we move ahead in the Senate, or will we wait for the House to act? Maybe more apt to wait for the House to act, but that doesn't mean we won't continue our work in the United States Senate to try to get something that can pass, because we believe, a majority of the Senate,
A majority of Iowa.
a majority of the Senate believes that these kids came here, their parents brought them here, so they didn't break the law. Their parents broke the law, but we don't attribute what the parents did to the kids. So a lot of you here would say Chuck Grassley wants to give amnesty. Amnesty is for people that broke the law.
Yes.
And that's a whole different issue, but I hope you believe that kids that came here in diapers are 5 or 6 years old or 10 years old and their parents brought them, they did what their parents told them to do. So we're going to legalize and have a path to citizenship for them. And we're probably going to have to, in order to get a president's signature, we're probably going to have some border security and some maybe not family visas, except for nuclear family, and then probably do something with the diversity visa. But we're going to pass legislation. Now, we may not have to have it done by March the 5th, even though the president said so, for this reason. Because 2 judges on a nationwide basis have upheld, or have held up what the president's doing. So if that's appealed to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court doesn't shut down until June 30th, and at this point they probably wouldn't make a decision before June 30th, we may have till that period of time. Okay, you in the front row.
My name is Gary. Been a long time trying to get a hold of you. A couple questions. I'd like to know what's being done about the way the Trump administration every day going to the taxpayers' podium and just telling one lie after another. What's being done about that? That's the taxpayers' podium, and they constantly tell one lie after another, and they're provable lies. And then my second question is this. My second question is this. You got Google? Do you know how to Google? My second question is, do you know what repeal and replace means?
Yeah, it means repeal and replace.
Yes.
But
Repeal.
we came one vote short, so it's not
No,
really done.
hold on a second. You can't pretend to be shocked when the Affordable Care Act is broken, when the Republican Party literally stood around it and kicked at it 62 different frickin' times to destroy it. Okay, and repeal and replace, sir, in my opinion, put pre-existing conditions back on the table. I don't know how you can look at your constituents and tell them that you didn't willfully mislead them as to what repeal and replace meant. I'll sit down and listen to your answer.
Yes, the first point he made was asking a question, so I should answer that question about all that we can do when the president says something that we think is untruthful.
But why do you continue to carry his water?
The lady, stand up, please.
I want to thank you for coming to Manchester today. My name is Robin Stone, and I'm from Manchester. I had to write this down so I wouldn't forget. You stated last Thursday, and I'm going to quote, that we've not done a very good job of making sure that people who have mental reasons for not being able to handle a gun, getting their name into FBI files, and we need to concentrate on that. As chairman of the Judiciary Committee, I assume that you're aware that we already have a federal law that makes it illegal for anyone who's been adjudicated mentally ill and committed to a mental health treatment to own or possess a firearm. These people are already included in the federal database. I would like to know, who else are you proposing to put in this database? Anyone with a mental illness? All the research I've done shows that less than 5% of gun-related killings are committed by people with a mental illness. I am diagnosed with bipolar disorder and PTSD. Are you proposing that people like me have our legal right to privacy ignored? And why won't you address the real problem of easy access to assault weapons?
Okay.
Yeah!
To get constitutional due process, there's got to be a process that professionally and judicially is a determination of whether or not your name ought to be in the databank, so you can't have one. Is that your question? Because that's my answer.
Well, you said that we need to do better about getting people with mental reasons to not have a gun, getting their name in FBI files. I want to know who else other than the ones that are already in the files.
Well, that's the problem. Mental health issues is such a sensitive issue. Plus, we have 38 states that don't report all the felonies and all the marital abuse and the mental health and all the reasons why you can't get a gun.
And I would agree with that. Thank you.
And they don't. It isn't reported. And so part of what Senator Cornyn's bill is that'll probably come up here shortly as a result of the negotiations that were going on even before Parkland, that will deal with that issue of getting the states to report. But you have to know that it's not easy dealing with telling somebody they have a mental illness. That's just very difficult. But there'd have to be a president, it'd have to be a professional and judicial determination so that people's constitutional rights aren't abolished.
So can I?
Yeah, let her respond to
Sure, I
that.
understand. Thank you. The people that are not being reported, who've already been through a court adjudication, are the ones that you're most concerned with. You don't want somebody like me to have to be registered as people with mental illness.
I couldn't make a judgment about you because there's some professional person would have to make that judgment. You want to do that?
Hi, yes, Senator Grassley. You know, you and I have interacted over the last 40-some years on occasions. I grew up on a small farm between Gilbertville and Raymond on the other side of Waterloo to New Hartford. So, but are you familiar with the Dickey Amendment? You know what the Dickey Amendment is?
No. But you
Okay, that was something that was tacked on. That was tacked on to a bill 22 years ago in 1996, and it said that if the CDC, the Disease Control Commission, if they researched gun violence, that they would lose federal funding. and that's still on the books. So there hasn't been enough research done on gun violence and the effect it has on mental health. That's a big part of this whole issue with mental health and so forth. Would you be in favor of looking into that and maybe repealing that so that research could be done on the effect of gun violence? Look at in the schools now, the effect, we see these kids finally standing up in Florida now, and they were in the next room while the kids were being shot up and everything, and that's got to have some kind of mental effect onto them for the rest of their life. And we need to have this kind of studying done so that it can be addressed.
If you're asking me if I would look into something, I couldn't say no to anybody asking me to look into something.
Okay, thank you, man.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Thank you, Chuck.
What about this gentleman's question on repeal and replace? We didn't get an answer on that. And about pre-existing conditions. Could you please?
No, he made a statement on that.
No, he asked a question. Sir, what was your question?
He asked one question and made a statement. You want to be next?
Yeah, you're not going to get an answer from him. That's his usual
Well, yeah.
technique.
Thank you, Senator Grassley. My name is Eden Newt, and I'm a registered voter. I'm 18, and I'm also a senior in high school. AR-15 wounds from AR-15 rifles are not like regular gun wounds. Whereas with regular gun wounds, the bullets usually pass through with a linear pattern. With AR-15, the bullet leaves the rifle with such velocity and such energy that it tears through organs and muscles much like a sledgehammer, causing damage inches away from where the actual gun wound is. It shreds organs. These are the sort of wounds that we saw in the Parkland students just last week, and it's the reason why many of them who were able to make it to the hospital ultimately were not able to receive life-saving care because of the way that these weapons shredded and destroyed their bodies. These weapons are why students like me are afraid to go to school. Just today in Dubuque, because of a gun threat, all schools in Dubuque did not have school today. In Iowa City, there have been 3 gun and bomb-related threats in just the last couple of years. Students are afraid, and they are afraid because of weapons like the AR-15. So my question to you is, what are you going to do to prevent and to protect us from weapons like the AR-15 and other similar guns?
I'll go through 4 things I think that are possible right now to get up in the Senate and get some things done. One of the bills is just now being written by Senator Hatch and Democrat Senator Klobuchar, called the Safe Schools Bill. So we can get some money into our schools to prevent what happened in Florida. Secondly, so that you know, we were working on some things before Florida as a result of Las Vegas, as a result of the killings in the Baptist church in Texas. We're working on 2 bills. One, to do away with the bump stock, because machine guns have been outlawed since 1930s. That's obviously not a violation of the Second Amendment. Bump stock makes a regular semi-automatic into a machine gun. Do away with that. That's Senator Feinstein's bill. Now the president's already said to the Attorney General, get rid of that regulation. Now I don't know how that regulation got in the first place in the previous administration, but it did. But anyway, that, and then the other one would change it gets back to what this lady over here was asking about, the data bank for the FBI, so you can't buy a gun as a result of the murders and massacre at the church in Texas. That person committed a felony and domestic abuse, and the Air Force was supposed to report that name to the FBI so he wouldn't buy a gun, but it wasn't reported. So that's what the Cornyn bill is all about. And then there's legislation that's been tried in 4 states seems to be reasonable, that maybe we could look at it, the federal government. But these first 2 I mentioned to you, they're moving along. This now I don't know for sure how far this will go, called the red flag law, that allows people that can legally own guns, and maybe they've been using them for a long period of time, and then all of a sudden something goes wrong with them and they become a threat to themselves or a threat to other people, then that gun on a judicial way could be taken away from them. And then the other one would be to make sure that the shortcomings of the FBI, I can do something about the FBI, there was also 3 local organizations or governmental bodies in Florida that all had notice of this person was going to do a massacre in a school, and they didn't do anything about it. And to make sure that that's perfected. As of today, my Judiciary Committee staff, both Republican and Democrat, got a briefing by the FBI, and we will have all what happened, what didn't happen, or what happened up to the phone call that the FBI got about a month or 6 weeks ago, and then nothing was done with it. So that alert that should have worked didn't work. Why it didn't work, and we have the transcript and the paperwork to know what went wrong. I don't think we have to pass a law for the FBI to do its job, but they've got a problem if they aren't following through when there's such a threat that was given. Okay, and way in the back. Wait till I stand closer.
How do you prevent a convicted felon or a mentally disturbed person from buying a gun at a gun show if there's no background checks done by non-licensed sellers?
Okay, I think, I don't know how to do that. It's a legitimate point you're making. If you've ever been to a gun show, and I haven't been to very many because I'm not much of a gun guy, I haven't shot a gun, I'll bet, in 40 years, so don't ask me a lot about guns. But I have been to a gun show or 2, and I think you're talking about the guy that has it, he doesn't have a display, and he's walking around with a gun. He doesn't say it's for sale or anything, but somebody's going to say, you know, about the gun, and then he's going to want to sell it. That's what you're talking about. Is that right?
I'm talking about that there should really
What?
be better background checks at gun shows.
Yeah.
People can't walk out with a gun if they shouldn't have one.
Well, okay, for everybody that's at a gun show, they aren't going to be selling guns unless they unless they're licensed, and if they sell a gun, they have to go through the data check. It wouldn't be any of those people that you see that rent space at an arena to sell their guns and display their guns. If you buy a gun from them, you're going to be checked. If you didn't know that, then that's the case. Way back in the corner.
I have, right? Okay. 2 questions. Where are you at with the farm bill? And are you going to cut the CRP out of the farm bill?
The latter answer is no. We might actually increase it. But we're going to do some things to the CRP. We're going to make sure that most of the money goes to environmentally fragile land. You know, in other words, CSR 60 ought to be in before CSR 80. And we're going to change the formula so that the government doesn't outbid a cash rent farmer for the land. And right now that's a very serious problem for cash rent farmers, and it's very difficult for a young farmer to get started farming. And then go back to that index where you don't put in whole farms unless the whole farm would be 60 CSR. See? And your first question, where are we in the farm bill? We've got all the hearings done that need to be done so we can start to write a bill now. And I'm quite frustrated that we haven't started that last fall. And I'm sure that Senator Roberts will give you a reason why we didn't. presumably he's getting down to it now because my staff has told me that he's asked for time for me next week so that he can come to my office and I can tell him what I think is important to be in the Farm Bill. There's one other thing I want to tell you, though, that you didn't ask about, and that is I'm going to pursue what I thought I got done in both the House and Senate last time, to put a hard cap on what one farmer can get out of the farm program, so we don't subsidize big farmers getting bigger and drive up. What'd somebody say?
Farm welfare, that's what it is.
Well, I'm trying to do something about that. And in 2014, I got it through the Senate with no trouble. They got it through the House exactly the same way I had it. And when you go to conference to work out the difference between the House and Senate, they shouldn't touch anything that both houses had agreed to. And they had 3 conferees from Southern Agriculture, and they don't like what I'm trying to do, and one from the Midwest, and so it got obliterated. And we've got to make sure that doesn't happen again. How about the lady there and check? No, you was pretty good.
Hi, my name is Alicia. I'm 24 years old. I'm currently enrolled in the University of Dubuque in the flight program. And the question I have for you is, when are you going to come out and support students fund education properly in this state? Because we're not asking for a handout. We're asking for education to be the leader in this state, and it's not being funded properly. For me, my biggest issue is that I hate seeing a bloated military budget when we could be here at home with good infrastructure and good education.
I don't know how much of a promise you want, but I have a record of increasing Pell Grants. I have a record of plenty of money being able for guaranteed student loans. I support the TRIO program. I support the work-study program. Then there's something that I hope to get into the higher education reauthorization bill when it comes up later on this year. And that would be this. It would be to help people like you that may be getting in more debt than you should. And let me explain why that ought a problem and you ought to be interested in that. And this comes from a problem that was brought to my attention when Sally Mason was president of the University of Iowa. She was telling me about the students that have $29,000 worth of debt. And she said if for tuition and room and board and books, they'd be $13,000 less debt. So I started looking into how could you get in that situation that people are borrowing more than they need. And I found out that the federal law requires the university to tell you the maximum amount you can borrow, and you probably borrow. So I'm going to introduce a bill called Know Before You Owe, which works this way. It does away with the requirement that the universities ought to get, and the federal government promotes more debt on you than you need, and actually promotes people to get in trouble and get behind the 8 ball. And then, so do away with the requirement that they tell you what you have to go to school. And then in addition, it would be the no, K-N-O-W is Know Before You Owe, O-W-E. You ought to know what you're majoring in. Is it looking ahead 4 years? Are you going to be able to get enough salary from that to pay off your debt? See?
Nobody wants to pay a living wage first.
Maybe I better look over here. How about you?
Thanks for all you're doing for Iowa. But, you know, our democracy is pretty special. You know, we've sustained it for a long time. But I think Russia, their goal is to reduce the strength of democracies, probably small ones first and then coming at us. Today, our president said he was going to sanction North Korea, which is probably a good idea. Both houses of Congress suggested that Russia be sanctioned. Our president, thanks for voting for it. Our president hasn't done it.
Can you go on the record? Tell the president?
I want to ask you if Russia is going to be sanctioned by the president, and if it's not going to be sanctioned, if he's not going to sanction Russia, first of all, are we setting ourselves up to demonstrate weakness to the other democracies in this world who look to us as the beacon on the hill? And if he's not going to sanction Russia, my question is, why is he not sanctioning Russia? He's criticizing our intelligence people who are cops, you know, trying to prevent crime. But he doesn't, he seems like he's more critical of our intelligence people than he is of Vladimir Putin.
I feel, since I voted for those sanctions, they should be instituted. And for the president, maybe he had some doubt before last Friday when Mueller named 13 Russians. It seems to me like if I was in his position, I'd kind of look this way. I'd kind of say something like this. Long period of time, I've been telling you that I didn't think Russia was interfering in our election. Now I have positive proof is I'm wrong and I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Okay, my daughter is here, so if you don't understand me, sit and translate. I have 3 children, and I thought, and I am an immigrant. I don't vote Republican, I don't vote Democrat. I don't think you have a democracy in this country. But 3 children. I thought that you were supposed to be protecting my children for going to school and be safe. When I send them to school in the bus every morning a few years ago, I thought this is a great country. Now I'm thinking, should I homeschool them? Because every time I send them to 3 different buildings with 2,000 people in each, I am scared that they're not coming back home. So it is my job to protect my children. But I am a teacher. Now you want to put on me a gun. Me, I haven't touched a gun in my life. I don't want to touch a gun. My children don't touch guns. But you want me to protect not only my children, but the 122 students that I teach every week. Me? So can you explain me how is it possible to put guns to teachers? How?
Thanks for clapping. I got less time to have to take. No, I didn't clap if you want. Hey, I want to tell you that wherever you got that I want to put guns in schools, let me tell you the answer that I gave in Burlington this morning and in Wapello and in Muscatine before coming here. When they asked me this question if I wanted to do it, if we're going to have guns in schools, I don't want Washington to make that decision. I want the Burlington School District to make that decision. Or I Hey, listen, I thought I was giving you an answer you'd like because I'm not for a federal law that we're going to require teachers that have guns.
By your president?
Well, I'm not the president. I'm the senator.
You can have the president call it, Grassley.
Let's see, the lady leaning up against the wall.
The AR-15s. I want to know how you and any representative or senator can justify AR-15s. It is a well-known fact that they are a weapon of war. Now, there's a lot of fear in this country. People who own AR-15s are obviously extremely anxious about being invaded, about being harmed. I hate to use the word, but what I have read is that white supremacists are arming themselves to the hilt. Yes. I want to know how you justify what is the metal destruction being sold to the general public? But, oh, by the way, everyone I know who's a hunter uses either shotguns or rifles. Put back in place.
Okay. When everybody's quiet, I'll answer your question. We had such ban 1994 to 2004. The bill passed in 1994 did two things. It sunset in 2004, so it wasn't voted out, it just automatically went out. And it also mandated a study to be done by the National Institute of Justice, and that's within the Department of Justice, to study whether or not the bans would cut down on crime and murders. And the result of that was that it did not. And so that's why it hasn't been revised, and that's why the last time the vote came up in 2013, whereas it previously got more than 60 votes, it only got 40 votes. That's right.
Back to the farm bill.
Yeah.
I'm looking over at net farm income, and I see that the last year the net farm income for Iowa and for the United States was only 75% of what it was in the 40s. We have a lot higher yields now, and our net farm income is only 75% in the 40s. And for the U.S., it's projected ahead to be less than 50% of what it was in the 40s. Our net farm income. And of course, then related to that is like in this case of soybeans, you voted to lower the price floors for soybeans every time you voted for the farm bill. And boy, you eliminated the soybeans in your vote in 1996, you and the others, to lower the price down. The price followed that right down. The free market didn't self-correct and pretend like you didn't need a farm bill. The price went down. And then, what was that result in terms of, the full cost of production measured by USDA? And we're below zero, decade by decade. Here's this 76 to 79, 80 to 89, on and on and on, below zero on soybeans versus the full cost. Now, the full cost assumes that you got paid a wage equivalent, but you didn't make any money. You lost money on your investment in land, machinery, and facilities. Okay, so how's that going to be fixed? The farmers of Iowa and the United States, but in Iowa, massively rejected the acre program, revenue insurance subsidies. They didn't like that approach. And yet you came back with the ARC program, the next farm bill in 2014, and you gave us the same thing, a revenue insurance program, where the standard is if the price goes low and stays low, then the free market says you don't need any subsidy, no matter how low it is, if it stays level and low, and so you don't get anything.
Well,
so what are you going to do to fix that?
Well, first of all, you're wrong with corn at 332 at Shell Rock, Iowa, where we sell our corn. If that's the average for the year, there will be a subsidy up to $3.79. So don't say that there won't be a subsidy, and then don't forget you can also use crop insurance to protect yourself both from production as well as price if you buy the right crop insurance.
Your own Congressional Research Service projects and shows that the subsidies that we've gotten, that the subsidies will get smaller and smaller and smaller, even with these very, very low prices. That's what your Congressional Research Service shows in its projections. That there's not going to be much subsidy.
Let me ask you this. If you're telling me this, then I'll have to say I disagree with you. But if you want to maintain a farm safety net, I'm willing to do it. But do you think the farm safety net ought to guarantee a farmer a profit? Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying that if we export corn to Mexico, we shouldn't do that below our cost of production, as I showed on soybeans or anything else. We should do it above our cost of production, because when we lose money per unit, I think that's a bad farm bill. What do you think?
Okay, well, if we did what you said just now about Mexico, you think Mexico is going to pay more for our corn and they can get it from Argentina or Brazil? No, they're going to buy corn from Argentina and Brazil.
Well, the pathway studies on this great question from Iowa State University of Missouri shows that it's $248 billion for the Harkin-Gephardt farm bill and only $137 for the Reagan farm bill. So we would make a lot more on farm exports, even though we weren't exporting quite as big a volume. That's what they show.
Okay. Well, you told me that you didn't expect us to guarantee farmers a profit. but we're going to maintain the safety net, and the safety net's going to be just what the farmers are telling me at all my town meetings. You haven't told me this yet, but I'm sure you're going to agree that we ought to keep the PLC, we ought to keep the ARC, and we ought to keep the crop insurance.
Are you going to guarantee the United States a profit on farm exports, or are you going to guarantee the corporations buying it below our cost a profit?
Yes.
We have a positive balance of trade in agriculture. It's the only,
That doesn't mean it's above zero in our costs.
It's only.
It doesn't mean it's above cost. It's a positive balance of trade.
I can't guarantee you anything. If we want to market, we're going to have to do what the world market says. Because I told you that if we demanded a certain price from Mexico and they can get it cheaper in Brazil and Argentina, would you ever rather have them buy our corn or buy from down there?
Mexico, all the other countries, Argentina would like to make a profit too. DAFIC says it can be done and it works. And so do a lot of other econometric studies.
I have one over here. Who's got a question over here? In the back.
Thank you, Matt Connor from Hotspur, Iowa. With every new farm bill, it seems like there's a mandatory scrutiny of the conservation reserve program. It's almost a requirement, it seems like, for budget hawks and also budget money seekers. The CRP is a large part of the conservation title within the Farm Bill, but the program has one thing important that's going on with it. CRP is a great conservation program benefiting water quality, soil erosion, soil health, and wildlife. CRP has a track record of over 30 years of positive environmental impacts on our landscape in the upper Midwest. CRP is recently being attacked and targeted as a not putting enough environmentally sensitive land in the farm into CRP, been criticizing for taking away good land for young farmers. Even the increased cost of Iowa farmland has been blamed on CRP. I'm here to say that I'm here to defend CRP. Iowa has the nation's largest CRP program, over 109,000 contracts in Iowa. The third largest number of acres, at 1.7 million acres. I question sometimes we take those 1.7 million acres out and we can look back at $2.50 corn, and so it's doing some good in that sense. Of the more than 109,000 contracts, 100,479 contracts are under 50 acres in size. In fact, more than 67,000 contracts are under 10 acres in size. Iowa's average size of CRP contract currently is 16.38 acres. 87% of Iowa CRP acres have an EI, erodibility index, of greater than 15. You know full well that's a very erosive land, so they're doing a good job there. Iowa is one of the best states in the country putting highly erodible lands in the CRP. The CRP encroach on the opportunities for young farmers. The average CSR of our Iowa CRP lands is 46. And do you want your kid farming that kind of ground when they're starting off? CRP is great for wildlife, not just pheasants, but important grassland species of birds, mammals, amphibians benefit from CRP. We recently became the best in the nation at putting pollinator habitat out there, and incidentally that helps out monarch butterflies. You think that that might be kind of a little thing to worry about, but it was a national directive at that time to get pollinator habitat out on the land, and Iowa, NRCS, FSA, the employees of USDA did a heck of a job of putting 219,000 acres. We lead the country in that. We lead the country in buffer programs. All I'm saying is that CRP is working land, and CRP put in the right place is doing a good thing. And the numbers that I use, I think, show that in Iowa we're doing exactly what CRP is supposed to be doing.
You didn't answer the question, but I got to ask you a question back. If you were here, if somebody over here, I talked about CRP, and everything you're telling me, I don't think I have any beef with it. What's your beef with me?
No, I want to make a statement because I know you've helped us out a lot on CRP, but I want to remind people that a lot of people are going after the program saying it's not being used correctly. And the numbers in Iowa shows that it's being used absolutely.
I don't actually get it. Except for what I talked to this gentleman over here, that are complaints I hear, I don't generally get any negative reaction to CRC as a principle.
First, I'd like to thank you, Senator, for coming to meeting with your constituents.
Yes.
Very much appreciated. I live in Walker, Iowa. I'm now just an old school teacher, substitute school teach. So my question I have for you, it's encouraging to hear the bills that are being introduced in light of last Wednesday's tragedy. In your opinion, how realistic is it that we're going to be able to develop a meaningful dialogue amongst our leaders in Washington and cut through all the partisan politics and actually provide some safeguards for our children and our teachers in our schools?
Good question. I believe it very much helps that the President has brought this issue up and listened to people like I've listened to people at my 14 county meetings this week. And Congress can go ahead and do whatever we want to do, but when a president is leading it, it helps reduce the partisanship.
Just wondering if there's anything being done to help the younger generation in farming. So many dollars, everything's virtually impossible for the younger generation.
There is what you heard me try to do here, so we don't subsidize big farms getting bigger and make them for you to pay rent, make it uncompetitive for you. There is 2 programs, but I don't know how much money there is in them. But remember, the state of Iowa, and it's a result of federal tax exemption for bonds that Iowa can get, they give lower interest loans to farmers. And then there is a beginning farmer program in the FSA that you need to look at. And probably the issue there isn't the program, the issue is how much money's in it. What it takes to call.
Senator Grassley.
I'm not done with this stuff. But I think the situation today is similar. When my dad died and I started farming, you had to have a banker, and my mother helped out, and you had to have an off-farm job. And then when my son started farming in 1980, I helped. He had a banker, and he had outside income. And then when our grandson got into farming operation, it turns out his dad had money in there and helped and off-farm income. I think it takes that combination to get started farming, or I never would have got started farming. There's so many people here, how would I know who to call on? The lady in the brown sweater. Or whatever it is.
First, I'd just like to thank you for coming out here.
Can you wait till I get closer because I won't be able to hear you.
First, I'd like to thank you for coming out here. But I don't appreciate the fact that you have been skipping out on the Johnson County Town Hall meetings for the last 5 years.
Yes!
Senator Grassley, over the course of your career, the NRA has given you $235,907 and has given you 100% approval rating. Do you prioritize support from the NRA over the lives of your constituents? Will you promise me and the children of America and everyone here that you, here and now, will you promise me that you will stop taking donations from the NRA?
I was just re-elected. I've got a 6-year term, so ask me that same question in 4 years, because I'm not going to be asking anybody for any money in between now and then. Okay?
Yes or no? Can you promise that you will stop taking money from the NRA now, 6 years, just in general?
The answer, then let me answer your question, because I could get this same question about people taking money from the Farm Bureau or from the Labor Union. So I want to answer your question this way. For all
it's a simple yes or no.
All the politics. I've operated this way, and it's never caused me any problems, either being a legislator or with my constituents. I've always said to people, I will take any money that is legal and not with any attachment to it of how I might vote.
But do you realize that the NRA is supporting the deregulation of dangerous weapons? Taking money from the NRA means that you are supporting the deregulation of dangerous weapons.
You can put the two together, but it's not very legitimate. One other thing I got to address. One thing. Well, she addressed another thing that I got to tell everybody, because I think there's some misunderstanding of my county visits in the 38 years I've been in the Senate. She said I haven't had a town meeting in Johnson County for 5 years. She's probably right. What I do is I put great priority on going to places where people don't come to me. So I try to go to about 15 high schools a year. I've been to 2 factories this week where they shut down the assembly line, and I can answer questions for those people. I go to service clubs where people that are small business or maybe professional people can't come to me. So here's why I'm here with an open town meeting here. I didn't get any invitations from this town to go visit a business or go to the high school or do it. So don't you think that I have a responsibility? You guys can come to me, but don't you think I have a responsibility to go to people that can't come to me? I need to go to
every county every year. Your sign is wrong. Also, you not coming to Johnson County today. I missed school in order to come here early. You are making me miss out on my education to come and talk to you. Is my life really, is the money that the NRA is giving you really worth more than my life? You can't ignore me. Don't ignore questions.
You're ignoring your constituents?
No.
Senator, I guess what I'd like to ask, I know we're looking at mass shootings. It's a very charged subject right now. But, you know, right, and I grew up in the 80s. I went to high school in the 80s. There was just as many guns. There was just as many mentally ill people. When is Washington going to talk about what happened in the last 30 years that is creating the problem of seeing mass shootings today? Instead of talking about guns, instead of talking about mass mental illness, we're throwing in the box here. What happened in the last 30 years that is causing this issue today? When are we going to start talking about that?
I think the reason that people are afraid to talk about what's happened to our culture is they think you're trying to avoid the issues of guns and things like that, and that's why it's difficult to do it. They don't take you seriously. They think you're trying to do it. But there has been a lot of things that's happened to our culture that leads to it, and you're hearing about it over television quite regularly, and particularly from religious leaders and family leaders and stuff like that. But that's it, my answer to your question.
Can our politicians go address that piece of is what I'm asking? Because you know what, when I grew up in the 70s, I grew up with a gun rack above my bed. I didn't think about taking that gun down and going killing.
Can I ask you a question in return? Do you think, in regard to, you're bringing up everything that's legitimate from my point of view, just like every other gun issue brought up here is legitimate for them to talk to me about it? Do you think that there's any law that we could pass that would change the culture that you're bringing up? Don't answer until I can hear you.
Okay, I believe there are laws that could probably be changed if we were willing to go have a discussion about what's really driving this issue today. And I think that's the problem that we have. You know, is it because that we're such an emotionally charged world today? that is causing this issue? Is it social media that's causing this? I don't think we're talking about either guns or we're talking about mental illness, but I think there's a whole wide rainbow of information in between there that keeps getting ignored by Washington because it doesn't have a political charged atmosphere behind it.
The gentleman,
thank you, sir.
The thing you got in your hand, you stand up.
Thank you, Senator, for being here today.
My staff said you're allowed to ask questions. Go ahead.
This coming Tuesday, you have a meeting in Washington, D.C. with the President and the Cabinet, you and Joni, and also the Renewable Fuel Standard people on lowering our ethanol. What do you expect to come out of that?
I don't know for sure if there's such a meeting. Bloomberg talked about that there was going to be a meeting. I have not had a formal invitation yet, but this is the way I read it. That there's people with big oil that don't like ethanol, and they don't like ethanol because they don't control it. They want to put the squeeze on me and Joni to do something to harm ethanol, and we're not going to do that. And it's got something to do with Northey being in the middle, and it's got two senators the other place. What I hope that can come out of this meeting, if the media will do me a favor, is to get that this just can't be something between Toomey and Grassley and everybody at the White House that wants to put the squeeze on, and Joni and me. There's about 15 states in this country, in this country that's got a very big interest in ethanol. They better want to be invited to the White House at the same time if they want to save ethanol. But I hope that meeting doesn't come off, and I don't know if there's really a meeting, to answer your question.
I do.
You're just going to hold hearings with Merrick Garland while you're refusing to win.
Okay.
Yeah, let's take that. But I hope you stand by it.
And I want to say one thing before I go. I was in Johnson County for 3 meetings last year, and so don't say I never hold a meeting in Johnson County.